Hello and welcome to another edition of the NRS Insights podcast. I'm John Lovestock, and today I'm joined by Susie Silliman, the Senior Vice President of Data Strategy and Sales at NRS, and Brandon Thurber, who is the Vice President of Data Sales and Client Success at National Retail Solutions. So today we'll be discussing the NRS Insights for November 2023, an NRS same sales report. But first, let me welcome Brandon and Susie. How are you guys?
Good, John. Hi.
Great, John. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. So it looks like November was a strong month, Brandon.
Yeah. So first, I don't know how we're recapping November already, but it is almost middle of December at this point, and we have our numbers. We're first to market with an early read, and the NRS stores seem to be outperforming traditional retail commerce. In November versus last year, stores total dollar sales were up about 3%. Transactions or traffic is up about 2%. And the number of units is up almost 5%. So that's a little bit different than the national trends that are there from a convenience bodega sort of number. Most chain stores or nationally, they're seeing traffic dip a little bit below last year's numbers, and the sales numbers are about flat. So this speaks to consumers going to these types of retailers, the independent bodega convenience store, more often, buying more things, spending more money.
Great. Now, I didn't mention now just how extensive your network is. The NRS network reaches 27,600 active POS terminals operating in nearly 23,000 independent retail stores. And that platform predominantly serves small format independent retail stores, including convenience stores, bodegas, liquor stores, grocers, and others. So, Susie, did Black Friday and Thanksgiving have anything to do with these good numbers?
Yeah, John. So you would think that a weekend that is predominantly dedicated to shopping, like Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, would be a stimuli for a network of small businesses. However, performance in our stores is a bit counterintuitive to that. What we have seen throughout the years, and this year is no exception, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday of Thanksgiving tends to perform below sort of the average Thursday, Friday, Saturday, average Friday, Saturday, not only within November, but across the board. So there's, many different hypotheses when you think about that. One, which is really about the audience or the consumer, is being most of our stores are urban. You think about the apartment dweller, the university student, et cetera, that lives in the neighborhood that's surrounding those urban stores. And, we feel that there's a disproportionate percentage of that population that instead of hosting family in at their location, at their residence, are actually going outside of their traditional residence to other family and friends. So those regular shoppers, so to speak, of the NRS network are outside of their local neighborhood or local community during that Thanksgiving weekend at a higher percentage than the general population. So we see that actually impacting our stores and seeing a softening of sales over not just Good Friday, but also Small Business Saturday, where you would definitely think that we would see a little bit of a boost. Now, what I will say is that the Friday, Saturday combo, right? Black Friday, Small Business Saturday this year was up a bit versus last year at the same percentage that we saw November of 2023 ahead of November 2022. So we are seeing, we still saw that consistent elevation in sales and traffic that we saw in November, but in comparison to just a normal Friday and Saturday in November, it's lower. It's lower than the average and lower than what we would just normally expect. Does that make sense?
I'm wondering if people, if the economy, if more people stayed home maybe for the holidays, didn't travel as much, if they lived in urban areas. I mean, it could be a variety of things, obviously, but we'll never know. The economy, we've talked about the economy the past few podcasts we've done. Do you think, that has anything to do with it still?
In terms of our
It's
store
like,
specifically,
yeah,
or
just cost going up and, people not traveling and spending less at their local
so
store.
I actually think it's the opposite. I don't I if it was a situation where folks weren't traveling and they were sort of staying within their apartment, I would expect to see those numbers for Black Friday and Small Business Saturday at least be the average that we're seeing on a Friday Saturday combo in November. I wouldn't expect them to dip double digits.
Mhm.
So I think that the hypothesis that there's a a reasonable percentage of shoppers in that vicinity that leave for the weekend and go elsewhere. Also, because we're seeing consistently that our numbers still are trending above year ago numbers, and we did see that again consistently this year, that that 3.5% is the increase for Black Friday, Small Business Saturday versus 2022. I don't think that that's playing out in that way.
Okay. So the number of transactions in branding, coming back to something you said, the number of transactions was also up in addition to, so it's not just a result of higher prices, transactions increased as well, which is a good indicator that people are spending.
Yeah, that's been a consistent metric for us for the last probably 2.5, 3 years, that we consistently see traffic or transaction growth in these smaller independent bodegas and convenience stores. One thing that'll be interesting to look for in December is, typically, because the holiday season consists of maybe some smaller, more frequent gatherings, we see a spike in those kinds of purchases. So your beverage sales, your wine sales, spirit sales, both non-alcoholic and alcoholic. Maybe they're using the non-alcoholic as mixers. We don't know necessarily, but NRS stores typically year over year see a spike in those kinds of products in December.
Oh, okay. So in terms of December, if we could look ahead, what do you guys, first of all, I don't know the answer. Do you track gift cards? Do a lot of your stores sell gift cards off the top of your head?
Yeah, so that's not a category that we track
Okay.
exclusively, but we can look at gifting type things. Like in the chocolate category, for instance, December is a big month for novelty chocolates or different things like that do see presence in our stores for a limited time basis.
The 6 foot of Twix. I think we talked about this once
Yeah.
before. I know that'll be under my tree this year. That's for sure. I mentioned that because I had seen a story. I forget which news. It was one of the main news outlets did a story on gift cards and how prevalent those are becoming as gifts. I don't know if people are just getting lazier, but it seems that more people are opting to go to Walgreens to get a gift card than they are to go shopping. I
Yeah,
think.
Well,
that John, that is something that we can, that we can look into across our network, right? As you know, that all of the stores that are in the NRS network are operating the NRS point of sale system.
Mhm.
So it would, so we could, depending on how they code those gift cards in their system, be able to see trends at an aggregate level of sales. And that's, for our next month podcast, that's something that we could take a deep dive into those NRS transactions and see if there's any interesting insights about gift card sales for December.
and something further, I don't know that it's as much laziness in terms of the consumer, but this day and age, everybody wants their own customized, X, Y, and Z, or their own spin on a gift, and a gift card allows that you to make that purchase on behalf of them in some ways, and the consumer to get exactly what they want. So I think that leads to that growing trend.
Sure, it's really that continuation of convenience that we talk about so much for the customer. It is more convenient. I understand from getting a gift, but being such a long time convenience store bodega kind of guy, you want people coming in and shopping and impulse purchasing and buying lots of things. It
So for me, I'll be interested to see December chocolate confectionery sales. As we spoke last month, we've seen a consistent price increase occur in that category that's being driven by the cost of raw materials that is everywhere as far as ingredient prices going up. And with that increase, we did see a softening of sales for those candy related categories. So being that December is such a prominent month for candy sales, it'll be interesting to see if that category recovered a bit, or if it really fell victim to just hitting a particular retail price threshold or not.
On a similar note, as I alluded to before, NRS sees a big bump in spirits in beer sales. It'll be interesting to see if you're hosting a party, if folks are leaning more towards the ready to drink and ready to serve cocktails, or if they'll go back to the more traditional, buy a particular category of tequila, rum, vodka, and a mixer and want to serve their drinks in that way. So that'll be an interesting December trend to look at as well.
Sure. And is it possible? I mean, give you guys homework because I feel like a teacher. I'm curious because I was shopping. I'm in convenience stores, as you imagine, literally several times a day. A 20-ounce beverage, soda. Let's just call it a cola. Any brand. It was $3.09 this past weekend. $3.09. How much is it? How much more could a 2-liter be? So I'm curious if people. Most people, right, it's an immediate consumption thing. But if you're going back to the office, now maybe you'll trade up and get the 2-liter bottle because it's only 20 cents more. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
So that's a great observation. Two very important trends that we're seeing in our stores. One, particular manufacturer is winning with future consumption in convenience stores. So the 2-liter and the 12-pack. The other trend that we're seeing that's kind of emerging in our stores more than probably chain convenience is anywhere from 11 to 15% of our soft drink dollar sales are not from the big three manufacturers. So there is becoming a price preference from the consumer, and they're choosing an alternate brand because they don't want to spend that $3 on the 20-ounce and check out the register with 3 items for $15. The consumer definitely wants to have other availability.
Yeah, I mean, just for me personally, 309 was tough. But you pay it because that's what we do. But I have to admit, I walked by the soda fountain and gave it a little double look to see what exactly brands they had on the soda fountain at 99 cents for a 24-ounce cup. So that made the vitamin, was it, they had vitamin water that might be in my future, by the way. So yeah, if we could, I would love to follow up on that in a future conversation, because I do think I can't be alone in that. You can't spend that kind of money every day in a convenience store brand. You can't spend $15 5 times a week.
Yeah, we definitely agree, and those are things that we're keeping an eye on. Unit pricing in our key categories and what the impacts are. Likewise, in cigarettes, we're seeing a growing demand for discount brands. So this isn't unique to soft drinks or candy or cigarettes. It's something that is popping up on a regular basis.
Yeah, and there was just a headline in one of the trade publications, convenience trade publications, about that either last week or the week before. And John, if you recall, sort of putting on your old hat when you were editor at C-Store Decisions, that was one of the insights that the NRS data had brought forth over a year ago, right? Was we were already starting to see shifting in those baskets that had cigarettes in them to the lower price brands. And we've said time and time again, and I will use this as an opportunity to repeat that the NRS data set is an excellent source as an early indicator of much broader mainstream trends.
I've
And
heard you say that 100 times, and
I'm
you're
gonna say
absolutely right. Because C-stores, the big chain C-stores now have given so much more space and embraced the lower tier cigarettes, just simply because to give customers an opportunity to get a lower price point.
And one thing that speaks volumes to this topic is our dollar basket is, because it's a bodega, it's a little bit of a different shopping experience. Has stayed pretty consistent, but it's about double what the traditional convenience basket is. But one thing that I find remarkable year over year is that while our dollar sales are increasing, and most of the time it's because of traffic, that basket amount doesn't change all that much. So it's the consumer figuring out how to spend a similar amount of money with their preferences on a pretty routine basis. So take that for what it is, but we can decompose that or build it back up with our data, certainly.
Yep, the shopper's disposable income is not increasing, right, at the same rate of inflation. So the average basket ring is staying pretty static or pretty consistent. It's just the makeup of what's in that basket. And again, our sales are increasing and outpacing the category because we're seeing an increase in traffic in those same stores.
It's a wonderful observation. I've never quite looked at it that way. So that really is something to keep an eye on. So that I think that kind of alludes back to what we were saying, in that if that $15 was spent buying flour and sugar and a pie crust to cook at home, and then a beverage on the way out the door, maybe that beverage starts going away to afford the other stuff.
Yeah, or there's a different selection, whether it's a can versus a bottle, or a different brand than they're used to drinking, or maybe a water instead of a soft drink. But it's all staying right around that same amount for sure.
All right, excellent. All right, so before we wrap up, guys, any closing thoughts? Anything to keep an eye on for our retailers in December, for the rest of December?
I think we covered the things that we're going to keep an eye on as we round out the end of the month, which is also going to be rounding out the end of the year. So during our next podcast, we may also have some interesting year-end insights. And we certainly can think about having a separate podcast for that 2022 year in review, where we could really do a deeper dive and take a little bit more time on the trends that we're seeing in 2023 versus 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, and we might be celebrating some thresholds or some benchmarks, and as the year closes. So stay tuned for that.
Great. Okay, I look forward to speaking with you guys again next month, and certainly I would love to do a year-end wrap up where we can, kind of do a full year, like you mentioned, Susie, and then take a look towards 2024. All right. So with that, on behalf of Susie and Brandon, I'm John Lovestock. I want to thank you again for joining us on the NRS Insights podcast, and we look forward to having you again next month, where we wrap up the year. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Bye-bye.